Hello and welcome to Odds Premier League Match Day 7. What a weekend we have ahead of us. We have Chelsea, Liverpool before the international break with a lot of criticism around Liverpool, Tom. Only 2 defeats this week and it looks like the project is kind of shaking.
Yeah, I mean, the whole league this year has been really unpredictable, and Liverpool's sudden trailing off of form is quite unpredictable as well. Look, I think they're not the finished article. That's going to make this title race really interesting this year, but I still think it's theirs to lose across the next few months.
Well, we can see always the positives or the negatives, I think, from Arsenal, City, or Liverpool, depending on how you see life. You are going to see the glass half empty or half full. We are going to have time to analyze every team. So, guys, thanks for being here with us. Of course, tell us your tips, ask any question. To Tom Rennie, he was also spot on this week in the Champions League. We don't have Ronan, but we have Tom. And now, of course, press the like, subscribe, and now let's go on with the show. And the first game already on Friday, Bournemouth, Fulham. The bookies place Bournemouth really as favorites. Perhaps it's because Fulham away from home, they've been kind of weak. They lost in Birmingham in Villa Park 3-1 last weekend. They've been strong at 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐻 Cottage, but again, away they are struggling, and Bournemouth coming from 2 draws thanks to a late goal against Leeds, also against Newcastle. I wouldn't be surprised also if we see another draw here, Tom.
Oh, yes, screams draw this game. Screams draw in lots of ways. 2 really good teams. I think that's the first and most important thing to say. And I think that they're both going to be nowhere near relegation this year. I think Bournemouth will finish top half, and Fulham I expect to maybe be around 10th, maybe top of the bottom half, which is pretty commendable, considering that there hasn't been a great deal of investment in Fulham over the Marco Silva years. I mean, let's start with Bournemouth. The great skill of Andoni Iraola's side is that you have to beat them. If you want to win against them, there won't be chances spat to you. There won't be a great deal of mistakes. There won't be coaching errors and bad substitutions and all that sort of stuff that allows the opposition in. To beat them, you've got to be really good on your day. And if you're not, you will not get a result. That was the story of Leeds United last week. We couldn't hold on for the victory there. That was the story of the Brighton game a couple of weeks ago. Very even, but shaded by Bournemouth 2-1. Every game they play is quite close. I think the collective is better than the sum of its parts for all the positives there are from 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐵𝐻 and 𝗀𝗡 and Petrovic and some of the other new signings they've had this year. These aren't incredible individual players. And by that, I mean, I don't think this next group go for 50, 60, 70 million to PSG, Real Madrid, etc. Doesn't make them bad players, but I think without them being in this group, I think you'd see a drop-off for quite a lot of these guys. And that goes for Scott and Adams and Tavernier and several others as well. Beyond 𝐸𝐿𝐴, I'd struggle to see any of this squad really excelling elsewhere, but they're not elsewhere. They're here. They are Iraola disciples. They work incredibly hard. They're incredibly clever, and everyone can do everything. So Scott can tackle, but he can also pass. Adams can pass, but he can also tackle. They cover a lot of ground, all of it. So they're a really impressive team, but they don't have a great deal of star power, and that star power tends to give you comfortable victories. That's why the games often are so close. In terms of Fulham, I think it's the last year of Marco Silva. There's very little left for him to achieve there, but what he has achieved is a really solid professional Premier League team. They have almost no depth in this squad. Their bench is one of the weakest in the league in terms of those that would consider themselves to be upwardly mobile. There's the Jimenez, Rodrigo Muniz switch, and there's the King Smith Rowe switch, and then there's kind of 𝗀𝗵𝗿 for Traore. It's all just like for like. Robinson probably here, so Sessegnon plays sort of like for like. Really good 6 out of 10 players across the board. I think 𝗀𝗵𝗿 is exceptional, but his continued brilliant form almost is happening by surprise in a way. Like, I see him as a 6 out of 10 player, though that maybe is unfair and maybe a problem for me because he's been a consistent 8 out of 10 performer for a year. So I need to rethink how I assess 𝗀𝗵𝗿. But they've got creativity, they've got solidity, and a bit like the team they're facing on Friday, Bournemouth, they don't really get thumped. And even the games you mentioned, Villa, They should have been 2 up. That was a handball from 𝐻𝐿𝐴, and they should have had a penalty, which wasn't given. If not, it goes in. Against Chelsea, Chelsea sort of scraped it. And the home games, I don't think they were wildly impressive against Leeds or Brentford, but got the job done. So really even game here. Absolutely screams draw at 3.65. That's where I put my money. Most likely scorelines being 0-0 or 1-1. That brings it up to 4.5. So that's a really lovely bet here. If you go for a winner by exactly 1 goal. The form suggests it, and the way Bournemouth win games suggests it. They're the home team. If you take them by exactly 1, it's 3.75. Bournemouth on its own probably isn't worth a bet. I might just shade for them if you push me, but I think a draw here.
I like this bet, winning by 1 goal, that you had it also in the Champions League with Chelsea, I believe, and was correct. I really like this market, but someone is saying 𝗵𝐻𝐿𝐴. I don't see much value in this match, but in the draw, I think you have a lot of value. Indeed, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 is going for the draw, 1-1, 𝐬𝐵, both teams to score. Let's go to the next one. Leeds, Tottenham. Tottenham, they've been lucky, I would say, Tom, very lucky, because in Norway they deserve to lose against 𝗵𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀, against Brighton probably they deserve to lose as well, against Wolves they weren't able to beat them, so their last performances haven't been so good, and Leeds, they've been very, very competitive. And no defeats yet at home at Elland Road. And again, look at the odds. Really high, all the outcomes here.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one to predict this. And the odds sort of suggest it. And if you look at Leeds United, 3 of their last 5 results, all comps draws. Tottenham, 3 of their last 5, all comps draws. Another game that absolutely screams draw here. For different reasons, though. I think what both teams lack is creativity. And in terms of Leeds, they have brought in this really 𝗵𝗏𝗏-like team in that there's very little creativity. They're very disciplined. They will work and work and work, but there isn't really a magic player in there. Longstaff, Ampadu, Stark, they're all very much like get up and down, get at them, tackle, fight. Brendan Aronson fits in that group. Several others do. It's kind of what the team is all about. And in the victory over Wolverhampton Wanderers a couple of weeks ago, I feel like that was as much about the deficiencies of Wolves, who I think are the worst team in the league currently, than the qualities of Leeds United, even though I don't want to disrespect the victory, but I think Wolves were very poor. I also think we saw against Bournemouth last week, when the heat is on, that's when the quality really stands out. And Leeds don't have it. I would still expect them to be in the bottom 3 come the end of this season, but I do think they're going to make an unbelievable fist of it, and it's games like this that may well get them over the line to finish 17th or 16th, what have you. Great atmosphere inside Elland Road when they're in the game. If Tottenham go 2-0 up, we'll see where we are. Like all grounds with great atmospheres, when the team is losing, it goes the other way quite quickly. It's notable when fans are not on their feet, so we'll sort of see how that goes, but very functional, well worth a goal in most games. More than that, I would be surprised across the course of the season. Of course, 2 against Bournemouth and Wolves for 3 goals kind of breaks that theory a bit. But broadly, I don't think they're a big goal-scoring team. In terms of Tottenham, it's the same issue. The loss of James Maddison, I think, is catastrophic for the season. Not signing 𝗵𝗏𝗏 is catastrophic for what they wanted to do. Lots of really good ball carriers, Simmons and Kudus and several others. Bentancur can get up the field. The fullbacks get up the field, but where's the person who plays the through ball? Where's the run being made by Richarlison? There's no 𝗀𝗏𝗀 who is injured, who is a bit more of a creative runner than Richarlison. So I just think they lack a little bit of purpose going forward, Tottenham. I have been surprised by their defensive record, I've got to say. Conceding against Wolves, conceding 2 against 𝗵𝗏𝗏𝗀, conceding 2 against Brighton and Hove Albion. This looks a pretty good defense to me. So that surprised me a little bit. And I'm keen to see how it goes this weekend in terms of their defense. I think Van de Ven and Romero, one of the best pairings in the league. Vicario is a perfectly solid goalkeeper. I think maybe Udogie and Porro, maybe not the strongest fullbacks. Jed Spence had been maybe exceptional at left back, and he isn't playing at the moment. So I don't know. Interesting with Tottenham. I still think they're good enough to beat Leeds, but I'm going to follow the exact same pattern of the last game for this game because it's actually quite even, which is a great compliment to Leeds United. So screams draw at 3.67. Absolutely punt on that. Again, pick out the most common score lines for a draw to bring the odds up a bit. 0-0 or 1-1 comes in at 4.5. If you go for a winner, shade for Tottenham by exactly 1 goal. So identical bets to the last game. But honestly, I did think about them separately.
Love this show. Thank you. Steve. Tottenham straight win leads Tottenham both teams to score. Well, if they play as they played in Norway, it's not going to be a straight win. So lucky in the artificial grass in against Bodo Glimt. Then Arsenal, West Ham. Oh, Tom, I'm so sorry. This is like going to the dentist. I think we should bet on goals from corners, from set pieces. Gabriel to score, Rice to give assist. We have the best team in set pieces, Arsenal, and the worst team defending set pieces, West Ham. Although for Arsenal, Tom, many people are very optimistic, and I don't think also they are playing great. Even against Olympiacos was not great. Against Newcastle, they had to wait until the last minutes. So the start of the season haven't been so positive in the way of playing, I would say. We expect more from this group of players. It's the quality they have up front. You mentioned before 𝐬𝐿𝐴 has been delivering, but some others, I expect a little bit more.
Yeah, it's worth noting too, West Ham have won this game the last 2 years in a row. So it is perfectly winnable for West Ham. Some pretty bad West Ham teams have gone there to win. So we'll get to them in a second. I mean, let's start with Arsenal. I think your point is well taken in that it hasn't been spectacular, but this is not going to be a spectacular team. They ain't going to beat teams 5 or 6-0 this year. That's not what it's all about. There is a real focus from Arsenal this year. It's just about being champion. It's about winning the league. It's about winning games. When they get to, they'll shut the game down. When they feel like the game is won, they'll bring on more defenders to see it through. They won't look to, when they had the ball at the 90th minute and the score is 1-0, they'll go for the corner. They won't go for the winner, right? That's the ethos now of Arsenal. It's about winning every competition that they are in. And there's some great rotation about Arsenal this year as well. Like Martin Ødegaard, I don't know how good he is. Not that he's a bad player. What I'm saying is he Kevin De Bruyne, the best player, in my opinion, in the Premier League in the last 10 years? Is he that quality? Or is he a perfectly good 1-in-3 player? I think he should be the player this team is built around. But today, I wouldn't guarantee he starts against West Ham at the weekend. And I think that's a really interesting conversation with Martin Ødegaard. Bukayo Saka is likely to play because there's no Madueke. Though a front three of Gyökeres, Trossard, and Martinelli wouldn't surprise me. Martinelli finds himself in good shape. I do feel like if Bukayo Saka is fit, he is the world-class talent in this team. But you never quite know with Bukayo Saka. Of course, played in midweek against Olympiacos, so we'll see what the selection is. I think Saliba and Gabriel are very strong. The fullbacks, some have positives, some have negatives. I think Lewis Skelly is great. Not sure White is great. But look, Arsenal are a better team than West Ham. They score a lot of set pieces, and they will be big favourites to win this game, I think, in quite a robust and solid way. In terms of West Ham, if they'd have gone into this game with Graham Potter in charge, as he was 2 weeks ago, I think they might have lost 10-0 because Graham Potter is and was a total incompetent. I have been shocked by West Ham more than any other team this year, by how underprepared they are. Probably Man United and West Ham are the two that have shocked me most because the two managers had such a long time to get ready. A free hit half season, pretty much, for both of them. They come into this season and West Ham have looked totally confused. And that's why Potter had to go after the loss against Crystal Palace. It staggered me that he went on that long, frankly. It was not working. And you saw on Monday, after a couple of days of Nuno Espirito Santo, who's an excellent football manager, they look more organised. They sort of conceded from a corner, but not really. That stat was a bit silly, I think, from Monday. The ball was cleared out and crossed back in. It wasn't the corner. So that skews the stats a bit. Not to say they're good at corners, but they defended them reasonably well in the game. I think in time, this Nuno West Ham will be safely in mid-table. I think they're going to have to struggle for the next 10 weeks to get out of the situation Graham Potter has put them in. But this team is built for Nuno Espirito Santo. They have attacking fullbacks. They've got two of the best counter-attacking wingers in the league in Bowen and Somerville. They've got issues, certainly. Central midfield still looks a little bit off. Nicholas Füllkrug is just so useless and slow and old and shouldn't be in this league at this point. But look, Nuno made something of Chris Wood. And I might have said that to you about Chris Wood 2 years ago. I wouldn't have said it last season. So we'll see. They've got all the elements of a good Nuno team. I think with 6 weeks of training, I would fancy West Ham's chances here. The fact it's only been a week makes it less so. But it's good to see Maguire start on Monday. I hope Potts gets some minutes here. The team on paper with this manager looks quite good. I think they will start winning games. I don't think it'll be here, though I don't think they'll get pumped like they would have done a few weeks ago. So take the Arsenal win, obviously at 1.23. Have to do that. Look at the corners market. Look at the numbers. I expect at least 9 corners for Arsenal. And if they score from a corner, it's likely to be two things. You mentioned them earlier. Gabriel to score anytime, the centre-half, that is, Margules, 6.5. Declan Rice assist from a corner you can throw in there too, but other people are kind of taking the corners now. Saka's taken a few, so slightly less positive, but Gabriel to score one. If Arsenal win the game, it'll be 2-0. So Arsenal to win to 0 is 1.8. Lovely little group bet here of 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0, 2.5. I think 3-0 was a bit too much. Arsenal under 2.5 goals. 1-0 or 2-0, I think, happens here, and that comes in at 3.5. So a narrow and unspectacular Arsenal win, which has kind of been the story of the season, really.
Well, 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐿 is going for the same, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 for Arsenal, but many people are confident with this new West Ham with Nuno. The draw is very likely. Arsenal will struggle against West Ham, and Ojomide saying, you always criticize Nuno. We don't. Actually, it's not
We love Nuno. We love Nuno.
It was Bruno Lage, the other Portuguese guy, not this one.
We don't like Bruno Lage.
Exactly, but Nuno is a good manager. Of course, not entertaining, but a very good manager. Let's go to another Portuguese that we don't like, Ruben Amorim. This one we don't like. Man United, Sunderland. This could be a tricky one. The double chance for Sunderland could be really juicy. 4 points more. Sunderland at this stage of the season is an amazing start, beating Forest, no defeats in the last 4. Actually, they only lost to Burnley. And Man United already 3 defeats, looking really bad against Brentford. And I don't know, Tom, now that we are coming into an international break, if Amorim is risking to be sacked if Man United are not able to win here.
I mean, the story is that the compensation to Amorim, if he gets sacked, goes down a lot in November, if it happens. So maybe they're holding on for that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's been a disaster. It really has been a disaster. And I could not believe the way they set up against Brentford last week. Playing a high line away against Brentford is insane. Like that's what you do if you'd never seen Brentford and you were just like, oh no, I think we could do this. And the opposition are like, oh, wow, I've never heard of these before. They're good over the top. It's Jordan Henderson to Thiago. That's like the only thing Brentford have, along with a great long throw. And Man United made no concessions for it, which is just, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to watch. Like, does he think his sheer force of intelligence and tactics are going to see him over the line? I can only surmise, yes, he does think that. And that may well be true in some games. It has been true in some games, I guess. But in the broad piece now of a year of him being in charge, it's terrible. And as much as there are problems at Man United, and is the shirt too heavy? Is it historically too big for some players? Do players arrive there and feel like they've made it and they're poor? On and on we could go. The manager's a problem. He's a problem. And a lot of managers have a style of play. They all do. We just spoke about Nuno. We sort of know his 2 styles of play. We know Thomas Frank's style of play. We kind of know Arne Slot's style of play, right? But one of the styles of play usually works when you stick to it. And this hasn't worked in a year. And he continues to do it. And that's what's really fascinating. If it comes off at Man United, right? If he stays for 2 years and this comes off, this will be one of the greatest sort of stories of perseverance in sport you've ever seen. Because everyone thinks he should change it. Everybody does. But he is not going to. He said a couple of weeks ago, even the Pope couldn't make him change it. So I kind of hope it comes off. I'm sort of rooting for him now because it's unbelievable what he's doing. I want them to start winning games so he can wag his finger directly in my face and say, I told you so, Tom. I told you all. Because right now we're all doing that to him for obvious reasons. Not a great balance of defense with Maguire, Shaw and De Ligt. Ugarte and Fernandes in midfield doesn't work, but I guess it's better than Casemiro because Ugarte can run. Been some good moments about 𝐿𝐭𝐤 and 𝗵𝗏 and 𝐶𝐶𝐿, I've got to say. I think that trio will work, but I'd maybe push them wider, 𝐿𝐭𝐤 and 𝗵𝗏, and try and create from those areas. So they've got good players, but last week when Sunderland went to Forest and the odds were, I think, 5.5, something like that, we just said, take it. Take it as worth a punt. 6.3 on Sunderland's form, the way Man United play, I'll take that. I'm going to stick a tenner on that. I did that last week for Sunderland at Forest, and it came off quite handsomely. These odds are silly. Silly odds on the form they've been on. Look, I think Sunderland in the second half of the season will struggle. I think they're racking up enough points early to get themselves above any sort of relegation battle, though, again, we are still very early in the season. But if you can get 20 points by Christmas, you're very unlikely to be relegated in the second half of the campaign. I still think there's issues here. Roos is very good, the goalkeeper. I have my doubts about the centre-halves. I don't think the fullbacks are amazing. Granit Xhaka, if he's not there, there's not a great deal of creativity. Isidore scoring goals, that's a positive. But the rest of the front three is fast and functional. I think they could really smash and grab this game. And I think that if they get 20 points in the next 5 or 6 weeks, I think we can start planning for next season already for Sunderland, which would be an incredible achievement. So again, I've said Sunderland take the win. If Man United win it, the only way they win is if they get a penalty. So a penalty awarded is 2.63. They often get soft penalties at Old Trafford. Expect one in this game. And if they do win United, they will concede. They're poor defensively. Sunderland will get one. So if Man U are to win, it'll be both teams to score. That doubles your money. Man U on its own to win here is untouchable. The odds are rubbish. This is the first thing I found that's worth it if you think they'll win.
Well, the double chance for Sunderland that we were mentioning is 2.65. Also, 𝐬𝐿𝐴 is going for a double chance here. I like the upset here. Go with Sunderland. 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 is telling us some others are going for the under. 2.5 goals. Also, Emmanuel 𝑋2 for Sunderland. Even Man United struggled to beat Burnley in the very last minute, so they've been rubbish so far this season. Next game, the best game this weekend, Chelsea-Liverpool, with a lot of issues for both sides. Chelsea unable to stay with 11 men on the pitch. It's been 3 games in a row with some player sent off. At least they won in the Champions League, although the game was really ugly and watchable. And Liverpool with the first 2 defeats of the season, 3 if we count the Community Shield, 2 of them against Crystal Palace. The signings are not clicking. Already many criticism around 𝗀𝗀𝗄, of course, and 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗀, but also some others, Tom, like Salah, like 𝐿𝐿𝐴, are not working, and now people are also looking at the bench. If no one is playing well, perhaps slot has something to do with the issues that Liverpool are having so far.
Yeah, I think we all thought that Liverpool weren't at their kind of top power in the opening weeks of the season, despite the results they were getting, and you could sense something was coming. I'm not sure we all thought 2 defeats in a row, but we knew that Palace game was going to be sticky last week, and it was a well-deserved win for Crystal Palace. The Galatasaray game was slightly more surprising to me. I think that they couldn't create. They struggled in the game. The injury to Alisson was significant, so he won't be in goal for this weekend, more than likely. And the lack of defensive rotation is going to be a problem. 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 is not on good form. I would say that, I guess, because he's one of those players I just don't like very much. I think he's very good. I think he's overrated, but they can't replace him. Joe Gomez would be his replacement. That's a bit of a step down. And then the Szoboszlai right-back thing. Yeah, it worked at Newcastle a few weeks ago. That's it. You have 2 right-backs. One is Bradley and one is Frimpong. Pick one and play them. And then work out a midfield balance. The midfield would be better off, in my opinion, right now without Florian Wirtz. He's a great player. Great player. Is he a Premier League player? Don't know. We're going to find out. Is he a world-class player? Don't know. We're going to find out. Should he play this weekend? For me, no. I don't think so. I think a midfield 3 of Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, and McAllister all being fit is what I would pick this weekend against Chelsea, because we know that midfield will work. And then front 3 should be built around 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 if he's fit. I think he picked up a little knock in the Champions League, so we'll see how that goes. But then you play Salah, who's been pretty poor across the season, but I'm expecting him to burst into life at some point. Then you take your pick of the left winger. But I think Arne Slot maybe has tried to be too clever in his team selections the last couple of weeks. I think it's about now whose best position is where. Get Frimpong at right back. Get Robertson at left back. 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽, I would probably take him out and play Robertson, who's got great experience. Play a proper midfield 3. Nothing too creative. Go back to last season's 4-3-3 and get a few more wins on the board. In terms of Chelsea, their problem is they're a player trading business with a football club on the side, and that's led to quite an unbalanced, sort of weird squad. I think that it'll be João Pedro up front, and then the 3 behind will be Neto and 2 others. Wasn't particularly impressed by the signing of Garnacho. Don't really understand why they bought Jamie Gittins. Estevao has had a couple of decent moments, but beyond the West Ham game, where West Ham was so poor, what else has he really done so far? I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure what the best group up front is. Midfield, Caicedo, Enzo, and another is the 3. 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽 is good defensively. Doesn't create very much, though, 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐽. I think it's the same with Gusto if Reece James isn't fit. And centre-half, who's the best centre-half? Chalobah? it's not great, really. If that's your best centre half, he's suspended for this, I think, as well. So 𝐿𝐴 missing, Fofana's missing, 𝐶𝐴LIBER missing, leaves you 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗀, and 𝗏𝗏. I honestly don't know. Probably. So I think like they're weak in a lot of areas, surprisingly, considering the size of squad they've got. It's a squad that needs direction in its build, and currently it's all very mishmash, and that's led to some sort of mishmash performances in the opening weeks of the season. Decent grind out victory against Benfica. They were very poor against Brighton, struggled against Man United following the sending off, didn't really compete against Bayern Munich. I don't know, not sure about Chelsea. Interesting one this. Both teams meeting at a time I think would rather not meet each other. I think you have to go Liverpool win, mainly because of the sheer amount of players that are out for Chelsea defensively. And if the Liverpool offense clicks, they can beat anybody. I do think at some point Salah is going to click, so take him anytime at 2.38. 𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐿 anytime is also double your money, so I'd look at that. Both teams defensively inept at the moment, so both will score, but Liverpool will win. Get that at 3.75. Liverpool in 4 of the last 5 have had both teams to score, and Chelsea, same story. 4 of the last 5, both teams to score. Sprinkling of 2-1s in there. Screams 2-1 Liverpool, frankly, if you're going for a correct score.
I like both teams to score. Last season, Chelsea won at the Stamford Bridge, if this counts. I don't think so. I like the draw. James and 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐷𝐿𝐴. Connats also, both teams to score. Defense have been terrible. David, the team with the better midfield, will win this one. Another great test for Liverpool. They shouldn't lose 3 in a row, but let's see. Maybe bet also on Chelsea to have a red card 4 in a row. Why not? Why not? Sunday, Aston Villa, Burnley. The season is starting for Unai Emery. Wins over Bologna and Feyenoord in the Europa League against Fulham in the Premier League. So I guess this should be another win against Burnley. If you're playing at home against Burnley, Tom, you should beat them.
Yeah, I think it's the safest bet of the weekend in the Premier League. I think Burnley are a poor team and will finish bottom of the Premier League this season, which we'll get to in a second. Aston Villa, unbeaten now in 5, right? Reports of their demise greatly exaggerated. They weren't quite ready to start the season. They did have a really bad summer, which clearly unsettled everybody, including the manager. And there was not a great deal of squad depth. I don't think the new signings have particularly clicked as yet. I think Harvey Elliott will be disappointed he's not found his way into the first team in front of 𝐻𝐵uendia, who most people are surprised is still at the club. I don't think Ghassan has done a great deal as yet. Donyell Marlon from January is not particularly good. So he's got a bit back to the old ways the best in terms of Rodgers and Watkins, and John McGinn has been fabulous the last couple of weeks carrying this team. Long-time servant, and I'm pretty sure club captain John McGinn. So, look, they're a very, very good team, but I think that they are a couple of players short of a kind of Champions League push, sort of Europa League push. I don't think Villa will finish much higher than 7th this season, which is still pretty commendable, without some new faces, without some rearmament and investment in January. I don't think we're going to see a great deal of Jadon Sancho, for example, this season. I honestly can't believe another Premier League team has gone for him, but there we are. But look, they've got goal threat now. Watkins is scoring. Rodgers coming back to some form. Martin and Cash, if they're fullback, will get around the back and cross. And with Burnley, they built last season on amazing defence. The only reason they weren't beaten for 10 last week was the goalkeeper. I think 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗀's been excellent. He was excellent in the game against Forest recently as well, where Forest should have won that under 𝗏𝗏𝗏. But there's not a great deal here. Who's going to score for you? Foster, Anthony. Yeah, okay, they're fine. It's a championship squad. It's a championship manager. And I expect them to be back down in the championship next season. And I expect them to lose this game. So look at the Villa win at 1.57. I think they'll win quite convincingly. I think at least 2-0. First decent handicap is -1.5 at 2.63. Can't see Burnley scoring in this game. As I've mentioned, I'm not really that enthused by their goal scorers, though I guess they have scored a goal in each of their last 3, but I just don't see who scores here. So Villa to win to 0 is 2.63. I think at least 2-0. Any more than that, I don't have that much confidence in the Villa attack at the moment, but a comfortable home win.
It looks like this screams under. David is telling us Aston Villa to win 1, 2, or 3-0 could be a good option indeed. The next one, tricky one. Everton, Crystal Palace, because Crystal Palace, they are in great form, even winning in Europe in their debut against Dynamo Kiev in Poland. still undefeated this season, but it's tough going to play at Everton ground. Well, they drew with West Ham after the defeat in the derby, but this could be another draw easily, Tom, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I'm not sure about Everton. I think that defensively, they've got a lot of blunt instruments across the back line. Keane, 𝗍𝗏𝗏, O'Brien, perfectly acceptable centre-halves. But we saw with Diouf and Somerville tearing O'Brien apart on Monday. If you turn them, they're in a lot of trouble, Everton. And West Ham, who had been woeful really this season until that point, should have won on Monday. I think they created better chances and were the stronger team as the game went on. Offensively, either Beto or Barry is the 9. They ain't good enough. Moyes knows it. They know it. And nothing has really suggested their Premier League qualities at this point. Dewsbury Hall suspended for getting 5 yellows in 6 weeks, so he's out now. And that leaves you Grealish, and that leaves you 𝐿𝐿𝐴. And good news is Tyler Dibling will come in, I guess, as part of that trio. And that trio could cause some damage. So that's where the damage will be done for Everton. If they're going to win it, it'll be Grealish and 𝐿𝐴 and Dibling, who are all very interesting creative players. Whether Moyes does play all 3 at the same time is going to be interesting on the team sheet at the weekend. But if Grealish don't do it, Everton don't really have much going forward, and defensively look a little bit suspect. So I think it's another season trying to battle for 40 points for Everton. I think they'll get it, but some people were quite high on them finishing in Europe or something like that. I don't see that. 𝗀𝗏𝗏 in midfield at 36, trying to run around in his white tights, looked silly on Monday, I thought. And so they need some reinvestment there. In terms of Palace, I mean, what else is there to say about them? I could do the same bit as last week. You know exactly how they're going to play. You know exactly who's going to play where. And every single week, these guys keep coming to the fore. Great win in Europe on Thursday. That could potentially affect them, considering they don't have a great deal of European experience as a club or individually. But beyond that, if they play to their potential, they, I think, will go to Everton and win the game. Their power in the wing-back positions, their quality in the forward positions, really the ability of the 3 centre-halves and the goalkeeper. That's what's really getting them over the line in games as well. Once they score a goal, I think you're in serious trouble against Crystal Palace. And I think there's every chance they go to Everton and win. So take them to win at double your money. I think that's really interesting, that considering they're 18 unbeaten in all competitions. Incredible run. So I think they can go there and win. And I see it being reasonably similar to the West Ham game a couple of weeks ago. If they do win, as is often the case, it'll be by 1 goal, 2-1 against West Ham, 2-1 against Liverpool. I expect probably a 2-1 again here. So Palace to win by exactly 1 goal is a really surprising 4.33. Don't discount the draw, as you mentioned. If you put together 0-0 and 1-1, that comes in at 4. So draw or Palace. I'm not going to be touching Everton for a while.
𝐿𝐿𝐴 again agrees with you. Palace to win or draw is a safe bet. Double chance for Crystal Palace. Glasner is a great manager. Another manager that we like, Oliver Glasner. It has to be Palace. Great value. Indeed, there is a lot of value on Crystal Palace. Next one is Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. Still not clicking. 𝗍𝗏𝗏𝗀 with Nottingham Forest. Still winless, and they lost to Sunderland, as I said before. Not better in the Europa League. In Newcastle, 6 points. It was an important boost, I think, the win in Europe against Royal Union Saint-Gilloise, because at home, Tom, they are putting things difficult to big teams, but they are not getting the points, perhaps, that they deserve.
Yeah, look, in the end, if your home defeats this season end up being Barcelona, Arsenal and Liverpool, I think that's okay. I think that's pretty standard for a lot of teams. They're going to win against a lot of teams at home this season, including, I think, against Nottingham Forest this weekend. They're a great example, a bit like Villa we spoke about earlier on. Bit slow to start the season, Newcastle, couple of injuries. Obviously, the Isak disaster at the end of the window, the signing of 𝗁𝗏𝗏, 𝗀𝗏𝗏 getting injured. There's loads going on, loads of moving pieces, and they struggled to settle into the season. I think we're now seeing a settled Newcastle. With every passing week, there's a little incremental improvement. Defense looking more settled. 𝐿𝐴 is now really establishing himself in this back line. They can go to a 3. They can go to a 4. Burn back out at fullback where he's a bit more comfortable. Pope making some great saves. Midfield 3, brilliant. Tonali's such a fascinating player in that I think he's outstanding in the Champions League. I'm not sure how suited he is to the Premier League. But when you see him in the Champions League, he's just so good. And in the Premier League, Joe Linton tends to star a bit more. And Bruno Guimaraes is so consistently good in every competition. So the 3 is great. I think they're trying to find that forward balance. For me, it's Elanga, Gordon, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏, but it ends up being Barnes and not Elanga. Sure, that can do some damage. I think 𝗏𝗏𝗏's been exceptional. So it's all just starting to click into place for Newcastle. I think maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, this might have been a bit more in the balance. I think now Newcastle look good, and Forest look in trouble. They look in trouble. I feel bad for Postecoglou, and I'm not a fan of Postecoglou, right? I've made that clear to you previously. I'm not sure he's a Premier League manager. I'm not sure he's particularly good at winning points in this league, which is a skill in itself. Might not be watchable at times, but got to get points first and foremost. That's the Nuno model. That was the David Moyes model. That was the Tony Pulis, Jose Mourinho 2005 model in the Premier League. Points first, style later. And a lot of managers now seem to want to do style first, points later. And that ends with you getting Graham potted out after 5 games. And I don't think Postecoglou will last long the way this is going. First Forest manager in 100 years not to win any of their opening 6 games at the club. Ouch. There were some fans quite audibly chanting sacked in the morning following the loss against Midtjylland in the Europa League last night. And he's trying things out. I feel sorry for him because like he needed a pre-season and you come into a very established Nuno model and he's now trying to break that up live. He's trying to build the plane in midair. It's not going to work. This is not going to work like this. He needs to do the pragmatic Europa League Tottenham is what he needs to do with Forest. If he doesn't do that, I think Postecoglou is out before Christmas and it's 3-manager season. So we'll see what he plays. But obviously he's had Europa League in midweek as well. So some tired legs. It's not a particularly deep squad. There's no real place for Chris Wood in this team anymore. It's a couple of sitters. So it's kind of 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐳𝐧𝐬, who's fine, but you're asking a lot on someone of little experience in English football to carry the team. Gibbs-White out on the wing, been a bit nullified. The team was built around him last season. Anderson and 𝗀𝗏𝗏 not protecting the back 4 or back 3, depending on what it is, particularly as they were. And there's gaps now. There was no gap in front of Murillo and Milenkovic last season, which made them look really good, which I'm kind of expecting to see at West Ham now under Nuno, right? There'll be players in front of, 𝐿man and I guess Mavropanos or whatever. And so they'll be protected by people. Right now, Milenkovic and Murillo, and if Morata plays all 3 of them, not being protected, leaves them exposed, makes them look a little bit ropey, and defenders don't want that. They don't like that. So this is a mess of a game for Forest and Postecoglou. I can only see a Newcastle win. I think Newcastle win quite convincingly as well. So first and foremost, Newcastle win at 1.66. They have 2 really outstanding players at the moment. Newcastle, for me, offensively. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, any time for him. 2.5 looks fantastic, like someone stretched out Rudy Villa. Anthony Gordon, I really like him and his giant headband. Anytime for him is 3. If he gets in behind, which he will in this game, Forest are in trouble. Can't see a Forest goal. Newcastle win to 0, 2.75. And then Newcastle to win 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0 is 3.25. Look at the handicap market here. At least 2 goals for Newcastle. Postecoglou, yeah, serious trouble.
Do not touch Nottingham Forest. It will be a flawless victory for Newcastle. Why do you hate 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏? We don't hate anyone here.
I don't think he's very good, though. I mean, I will say that. And also, he's very rude to reporters, and a lot of them are my friends. So I don't care for him. Sorry.
Well, losing to Midtjylland is not looking good. I think they had the opposite experience in Europe, these 2 teams. Also, at the same time on Sunday, we have Wolves, Brighton. Wolves only 1 point, first point of the season against Tottenham. Still looking bad, still looking poor, and there is already a gap with the bottom or with the salvation. And Brighton 8 points, Tom, beating Chelsea, doing some great games also, as you mentioned before, against Tottenham. So I guess we should expect goals at least here. Brighton super favorites, 2.0 at 1 point. I guess Wolves will deliver and play a good game.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Long way to go, right? I keep saying relegation and things like that, but you don't know what sort of battle you're in till the halfway mark. You don't really know what sort of battle you're in till 10 games in. So we're still 4 games away from me looking at the table. And if you win 3 in a row now, Wolves, they're up into 7th or something, right? So it's not like at the moment all is lost, but it don't look good in these opening weeks. I think that I mentioned earlier, Villa and Newcastle, and now I actually think West Ham, now Nuno's in charge. I think you can see there's going to be improvement there. I think you can see those clubs climbing the table gradually, surely, assuredly. I'm just not seeing that at Wolves at the moment. I think that they've been underinvested in for a long time. The defense is creaky. and not particularly good. I saw 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 this week, according to, I think, 𝐻𝐿scored, is statistically the worst player in the Premier League this season, the goalkeeper. So guess Sam Johnston comes in, who's been a kind of perennial understudy his entire career. That's not particularly encouraging. Andre and Gomez in midfield. Again, I've said this a lot. Technically good, but slow and underpowered. That's a problem in the Premier League. It's the pace and power league. I say it all the time. More pace and power than ever before this season. More physicality than ever before. And you can't have two short blokes in central midfield. It ain't going to work for you. And beyond Strand Larsen, struggling to see where goals are coming from. Arias has been okay. He's got a bit of pace about him, but Fer Lopez ain't ready for the Premier League. He's not ready for prime time. So all sorts of issues. Can a Vitor Pereira Wolves pull off a stunning victory? Yeah, they absolutely can. They've shown us that. But there's nothing in the form to suggest it, so I couldn't possibly bet on it. In terms of Brighton, great win against Chelsea. I mean, I punch myself in the face sometimes, the amount of times I underestimate Brighton. Sometimes they let you down, obviously, but they're just so capable. They're so capable. They're so well drilled, so well organized. They're a quite defensive team in lots of ways. They're not like an expansive, what an amazing football team to watch, as you sort of think of for Brighton, but the intensity of performance, the ability to follow instruction for some of these players, the ability to do something unexpected like Minte and Mitoma can do. It's all there. It's all there for Brighton. Gomez been good. Rutter been good. 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗲 been outstanding when he's been able to play this season. And that rotation, Rutter and 𝗀𝗵𝗿 has worked fantastically. 𝗀𝗵𝗿 very much the finisher of the team and scored a couple of goals in the Premier League this season, including the goal against Chelsea last week. So, look, I think they're better organised. I think they're more likely to score. Not an amazing team in terms of qualities. The door is open for Brighton, for Wolves even to beat Brighton, sure, but not with my money. So take the Brighton win 2. I think that's not bad at all. I think there's every chance it's going to be very similar to the Leeds game in that Wolves come out firing and in the first 10 minutes might get a goal. But as the game wears on, I expect Brighton to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So look at the Leeds game for Wolves. Look at the Chelsea game for Brighton. I think it follows a similar pattern to that. A lovely little group here of 2-1, 3-1 and 4-1 to Brighton. Comes in at 5. I think 2-1 or 3-1 very likely here. And that's Brighton, both teams to score 3.75.
2-0 for Brighton, correct score for Omoyoma, Steve, Brighton, and both teams to score. Yeah, because Wolves can also score. Well, 4 goals is not a great tally, but still some goals. And then Brentford, Man City. This is an interesting game, an interesting challenge for Man City after dropping points in the Champions League. Of course, it's not that important in this new format, but they couldn't beat Monaco despite seeing the best Haaland in the last weeks. And Brentford, they've been good at home, like last season, like 2 seasons ago, like with Thomas Frank at home. They beat Man United. They drew with Chelsea in the last minute. They also beat Aston Villa. So, of course, it's not the strongest team in the Premier League, but it's a tough test for Man City, especially after losing, for instance, in Brighton.
Yeah, I think what's quite interesting about Brentford is that, earlier we spoke about 𝗀𝗀𝗀, and what's he done? He's come in and tried to change things and make it his way immediately. What Keith Andrews has done at Brentford is change nothing. Change nothing, do nothing different, improve nothing, make nothing worse. And if we do that, we've got every chance of staying in the Premier League this year. And I think they're going to be bottom 6. But I think of those that are down there currently, they look like the side that are most settled, certainly more than the kind of West Ham and Forest we mentioned and 1 or 2 others. But how they score goals is one of 2 ways. Number 1, long throw from 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐷𝐿, who has this amazing Delap-like bomb of a throw that comes in flat and fast, and it's petrifying everybody. And we saw it in the equaliser against Chelsea. And the other way is Henderson over the top to Thiago. If you play a high line against Brentford, at any point, you're in serious trouble. United did it last week and we're in trouble. Will City do it? Yeah, maybe, actually. They might do it because that is sort of traditionally what Guardiola teams do. But also we've seen a very pragmatic Guardiola this season. He knows he's not the dominant force in the league now, and he's battling tooth and nail in every game. And so drop off 10 yards, I think you totally nullify Brentford. And if they do that, I think they go on to win the game quite comfortably. Yeah, you mentioned it. Not amazing against Monaco, but they're playing these games in second gear because the new format, it just helps everyone through. There's not a great deal of peril in these early group games. If you lose 3 in a row, then yeah, sure, game 4, turn it on. But City are going to get through, Barca get through, Real get through, etc., etc. It's built for them to not get eliminated. So wasn't wildly surprised by the result in midweek. The manner of it being a late Eric Dyer leveler was weird, but beyond that, I wasn't wildly surprised. And look, They do have a few problems, City. Like defensively, I'm not sure what the right lineup is. Is it Diaz? Is it Stones? Where does 𝐷𝗀𝗏𝗏 play? Are we playing someone like O'Reilly or Lewis or Ake? Like, I don't know what the Man City best defensive line is. Not sure Guardiola does, but I think he might need to pick one, which is not something he's had to do a lot in recent years. I think Donnarumma's exceptional. A great signing that's already proven to be. James Trafford making the worst career move in history to sit on the City bench for the rest of this year. Midfield's also a bit unbalanced, though I do think it's very counter-pressing with Doku, Foden and Silva driving forward to set up Haaland. It's a little bit sort of, everyone's gone David Moyes, everyone's gone Nuno, everyone's gone Mourinho, right? That's kind of what the Premier League is now. And it's almost like Arteta is setting the agenda, not Guardiola. And Guardiola is responding to that by being a bit more pragmatic. And you mentioned it, Erling Haaland, what a start to the season from a goal-scoring perspective. Just Premier League alone, it's 8 goals already. And the team is now built fully around him. And what a header, by the way, that second one against Monaco. It was Ronaldo-esque in its flight. It was incredible. And he's going to score in this game. He is going to score in this game. Take the City win, obviously, 1.68. Haaland first goal is 4. If anyone scores it, it's going to be him. Haaland scored 2 goals in this game is 5, which I really like. And also it's worth noting Phil Foden has come into some form as well. Foden to score or assist 1.8. You double that with a City win, you just about double your money. So he seems like the outstanding player that's not Haaland, but it's really all about Haaland right now.
And Doku, of course, James is mentioning Doku in great form. The Belgian winger, City and Haaland, anytime City wins, Haaland to score. This is the old safe bet that we had in the Premier League a couple of seasons ago. Man City to win and both teams to score. Well, unfortunately, Tom, we go into an international break. Nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. This break with really rubbish games. But here we are going to be for you also analyzing Spain, Georgia, Estonia, Italy, and these kind of games. In a
Thrilling
couple of
stuff. Thrilling stuff.
The real caviar. But in 2 weeks, we are back with the Premier League. So, guys, in the meantime, participate in our tipster competitions. We are in October and you have a new opportunity to win some money with our monthly tipster competitions. And also we have a special one for the Premier League. There you go. EPL tipster competition. So you have more chances to win since you are listening to Tom Rennie. And then you have rivals where you can create your own tipster competition. Tom, safe bet?
Yeah, there's a couple this week that I'm mulled over, but I think you got to start looking about who's going to be the Premier League's whipping boy, and I think it's going to be Burnley and Aston Villa coming into good form. So, tricky one this week, but I'm taking Aston Villa to beat Burnley as my safe bet. That's 1.57.
It's not Arsenal, Carbon Aaron. It's not Arsenal. And the ACCA?
Yeah, I mulled over Arsenal, but because West Ham have won it twice in a row, Nuno, I don't know. I'm not sure how safe it is. I think Burnley are going to get beaten every week now, so we'll see. ACCA this week is a 3-teamer. I think Newcastle are going to beat Nottingham Forest. I think, as I've mentioned, Aston Villa, victorious over Burnley. You throw in Brighton to win a bottom-of-the-table Wolves. It comes in at a very healthy 4.75.
Very, very healthy indeed. Well, Tom, this is it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tom. See you in 2 weeks. Don't get depressed with this international break.